This is one of the most dramatic beak corrections I've ever done. The new owner of this parrot has brought him here today to have this fixed. They had cautioned me that he may act aggressively, so I was a bit taken aback when he did this. Not only did this tired little soul ask me to scratch his head, he also offered his foot to step up. His new caretaker had cautioned me that due to some old injuries in the past before she acquired him, he had severe instability. An elderly parrot in this condition could hurt themselves very badly if they were to fall, so I'm doing my best to make sure he's stable. Even though we only just met, Paco seems determined to step up onto my hand, so I'm doing my best to accommodate that. I stay low and I move very slowly. Paco is a mealy Amazon parrot, and he was inherited recently. His new caretaker acknowledged that he is in desperate need of help, and that's what I'm here for. First, I'm going to tackle this beak. Removing the extra length from the bottom beak first will allow the top beak to sit in a much more natural position. I'm using my favorite pair of sharp, sterilized nail clippers. I find that they get the job done quickly and effectively. Parrots' beaks are made of keratin, the same as our fingernails and toenails, and just like those, they're constantly growing. In the wild, a parrot's beak would wear down naturally through regular use. This would be through chewing open the hard shells of seeds and nuts, opening up nest holes, and even just normal climbing and playing. If a parrot in captivity is not given access to appropriate chewing items for their size and species, beak issues can definitely develop. However, that's not the only cause of beak overgrowth. One of the most common but often overlooked causes of extreme beak overgrowth like this is actually due to a liver failure. Liver failure in parrots is most commonly caused by improper diet, one that is too high in fat and usually heavy or exclusively seeds. For diet tips, you can talk to an avian vet or nutritionalist. A conscientious diet plan should take into account the bird's species, age, sex, and condition. No two birds are alike, and their needs can be completely different. Paco is so well behaved, and he seems to be soaking up the extra attention he's getting today. You may have noticed that I continue to swap between these two tools, and there's a reason for this. With such a large amount of beak to remove, I want to make sure I'm doing it slowly and very carefully. The clipper is taking off bulk, and the sander is refining. When I'm using a rotary sander like this, the touch is very light, I keep the tool moving, and it's only removing a small amount of keratin at a time. We are in absolutely no hurry today. I've got all the time in the world with Paco. I've got a little bit more to take off on the bottom beak, and then I can start refining that as well. Parrots' beaks do have a good amount of feeling, and there is a blood supply inside, so I must be very careful when I'm removing keratin. If done correctly, this is not a painful or uncomfortable process, but the bird certainly does feel the vibration. And if the sander is left in one place too long, the friction could cause heat to build up, and that would be uncomfortable. Another thing I need to account for is that the parrot still needs to be able to use its beak when the trim is over. His body has got very used to this unnatural position, and it may take time for the muscles and tendons to recover. Parrots have an intracranial hinge which is extremely delicate. This special hinge is what allows their jaw to move forward and backward in a much more intricate pattern than ours. Changes to the alignment in this very delicate hinge mechanism can cause beak surfaces to not match up and not wear correctly. One of those deformities is known as scissor beak, and if you follow me, you'll see me tackle that one pretty frequently. It's an interesting deformity to deal with. I find a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction in doing corrective beak trims. It's a really easy way for me to make a huge difference in an animal and its caretaker's life. I also really enjoy sharing these steps with people like you from all around the world who may have never been exposed to something like this. My goal here is to help educate and inspire. Paco's story is just one of many that I'll tell you along the way. And his is a story of hope and new beginnings. I feel so privileged to be able to meet birds like Paco and make a difference in their step in the right direction towards a new chapter of life. I do believe that parrots belong in the wild, but the reality is these birds could never be returned to their native habitat. Parrots that have been born in captivity have no natural instincts to protect them in the wild or allow them to find food. And for many species, their native habitat has disappeared or shrunk drastically. It's now become the job of human caretakers to give these birds the best life that we can. And sometimes, as in Paco's case, that means challenging and correcting the last generation's improper care. We can't change the past, but we can all move forward to a better educated future for them. Don't they deserve that? While Paco was on my lap, I noticed he hadn't been preened for a very long time. Preening is opening up new pin feathers when they're done developing. Each tiny pin holds a brand new feather that's just waiting to emerge. Normally, a bird companion would help them reach the ones that they can't on their head and neck. Some parrots without a bird flock may really enjoy humans preening them, and Paco seems to be no exception. Preening is very comfortable and comforting. It's a way that parrots bond with each other and show trust. Plus, I've gotta say, it is so satisfying watching each feather open up. Preening the head and neck areas is one of my favorite activities to do with my own birds, so I was really happy to be able to help out Paco in this way. You can see he gets so relaxed, he's practically falling asleep, and I've had birds do that. If I had to compare it to a human sensation, I would say it probably feels a lot like somebody playing with your hair. When pin feathers are still developing, there's a blood supply inside. This is what brings nutrients to the new developing feather. After it's done developing, the blood supply shrinks back down and the keratin dries out. It's ready to flake away with a little bit of gentle pressure. A pin feather that's ready to be opened will look slightly dry and it's often lighter in color. The keratin should flake away very easily, and when it does, it's so satisfying. Paco's nails are excessively long and I need to take some length off of those before I sand them into shape as well. Nails that are overgrown can not only be uncomfortable, they can also cause long-term damage. Excessively curled nails could grow back into the flesh of the feet. They can also develop pressure sores and arthritis from improper foot position. Long nails can also get snagged or tangled in items around the home or in their cage. This can result in a bird breaking its toe, leg, or worse. Just like the parrot's beak, each individual claw has a blood vessel inside. This blood vessel is known as the quick. I keep cornstarch or products such as styptic powder on hand just in case I nick a quick, because it's very important to stop the bleeding immediately. Next, I'm going to give Paco an extra special step in his spa treatment. I like to use organic coconut oil to give their beak a little bit of extra moisture. Scientific studies have shown that coconut oil is naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antifungal. I'm going to give his crusty little feet the same treatment. It helps remove dead skin and soften up these calluses. I find that this massage is also very soothing to older birds who may have conditions like arthritis. I just make sure to use as little oil as possible and I melt it between my fingers first so it spreads out easily. I feel like Paco and I really bonded today. Not only is he looking and feeling better, his caretaker let me know the next day that he's now able to eat perfectly. Paco the Mealy Amazon is one face I'll never forget, and I hope that you don't either. If you enjoyed, stick around because I'll definitely post updates when I can, and there's always going to be more stories to share with you. It feels really good to know that today I made a difference, if only for just one little bird.